Welcome back to Live Good DyNasty. I'm Arlen, and we got Nate here as well. What's up, Nate?
What's up? I always get such a big spell. You just do our welcome so well, and we get
Ooh.
so it's like ASMR in my head. Like, oh, so relieved that we're starting a brand new episode.
Just like
just feels good inside.
Do a little
welcome
bit of that.
to.
Welcome into. Yeah.
So excited to be here, man. Yeah, we're getting into that playoff push time. It's week 11 already. I can't football's just flying by now, and so I'm just stoked to get in there and talk about some of the crazy things that have been going on, because fantasy football was kind of low scoring this past weekend, so it's interesting to see how it plays out the rest of the way.
And it started so well with so many great players on Thursday Night Football, including Ja'Marr Chase going absolutely wild at
that was great.
His annual, sometimes twice a year, like ridiculous 50-point performance. And looking at our league, I was looking at the best player scores of like our few years that we've had that dynasty team or league, and it's, I think the top 3 or 4 now are Chase, Mixon, Chase. And while Mixon was a Bengal, so it's just all Bengals on top. They produce them every year. They give us some great show.
Love it.
All right. Well, today we got our playoff push heroes. So whether you're really going for that playoff push, or if you're like me and you just like to mess everybody else's chances up when you're already out and still be active and keep in it, then this one will be for you too. Also, keeping active throughout the end of the year is a great way to set yourself up for success next year, because when you check out too early, you do not realize the late season changes, because it's rare that it's the same people throughout the entire year that you need to focus on. And when you look at those end of year numbers, it doesn't tell the full truth. Sometimes you can see a player that has begun to break out, especially these younger guys, these rookie wide receivers tend to break out towards the end. And if you look at their whole campaign, it's not going to tell the whole truth. One of those players that I could imagine is like a Ridley, where it's like, I'm afraid to play him. I don't trust him yet. I sat him in a lot of leagues last year, but I feel like at the end of the year could really be great for him. But we'll get into that, and we'll have some mailbag this week as well. And then Nate, I'm saying it live here, so Nate is committed to some starts of the week this week.
Absolutely.
We'll see how that goes, and if I'm going to listen to his advice or not. Probably though.
We're gonna. I don't know. Actually, I don't know. My record on my starts of the week so far is like kind of mid. So we'll see how we go this week. I do want to pause you for a second. Or you look like you were going to pause me. So I don't know who wants to pause first. I just want to PSA this for a second, because you brought up something that just triggered in my mind. You said we're getting to the end of the season and we might be spoilers, but just it's a good time to continue playing. The other thing about that, folks, like, don't be that guy, right? Arlen and I have talked about this for years. Like, at the end of the year, what's the right thing to do? Should you be, if you're out of it, the playoffs, should you be attacking waivers? Should you be still being active in the league? Don't be that guy that quits on the league. Keep it competitive, keep it going, have integrity through the end of the season. Like, because at the end of the day, like, if you're doing a disservice to those that are still in it and to your own experience. Like, if anything else, you're still developing as a fantasy player. You're still developing, like, how much fab should I be spending? When should I grab these guys? What should it look like? You're learning all that stuff. Keep playing through the end of the year, even if you're out of it, because at the end of the day, that's what makes it fun for everyone, right? And you signed up for the league. Whatever your buy-in was for your season, right? Even if you're losing it and you're not going to win at the end of the year, you paid $50, $100, whatever it is, for 14 weeks of entertainment. Enjoy it all the way through to the end, right? Like, it's well worth it.
I 100% agree. I've got a quick question of the day that we'll get to in a moment that is along those lines. But first, just a shout out to everybody who has already subscribed. We appreciate you. And for those that jump into the comments and have those conversations with us, we appreciate you. You're our favorites, the ones that jump into the comments as well. But if you want to be one of our favorites, no, just kidding. But I appreciate everybody who's listening, following along, subscribing, commenting. We're also on podcast services too, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcast, iHeartRadio. You can find us on all of those as well. All of those reviews really help the channel and the pod out quite a bit.
Yeah, I would like, yeah.
you off with a banger.
All good. I was just gonna say, we're talking about the guys, folks that are commenting. Shout out to @Swagoo33, who's been really involved in the last 10 days or so, for jumping in there, even jumping into some of our older videos. We appreciate you. Much love.
Is that the same person that is asking for the 11 through 20 running back rankings? Because I think we should do that as a okay. We should just do that soon. By the end of the year, we should get that final ranking as a thank you. So the quick question though along those lines: should a team, and I think you already got your answer out there, but just should a team be able to use the waiver wire if they're not in the playoffs? That comes up every single year.
Yeah.
And I've got strong feelings about it.
So I've got strong feelings too about this, and I've gone back and forth over the years. I will say that my opinion has changed. I am in a league, and we're talking about in the regular season before playoffs start, right? Because that's a different conversation, which I also feel strongly about.
Both.
Okay, so I'm in a league today, and those guys listen to this podcast, so I'm calling us out. That locks the waiver wire on teams who are out of the playoffs.
I'm not in that league.
No, you're not in that league. But folks that are in that league listen to this, so you're about to hear how I feel about it. I think that removes competitive ability within the league. It creates a different dynamic for the teams that are still.
You said
in it
once
that
playoff
existed.
Starts.
No.
Or once you're knocked out, like you don't have a chance.
Right. Once you're not,
so then you're giving a positive
out.
advantage to the opponents of the people who are still in it, but they can't better their team, so they have that just messes up getting into the playoffs at all.
It messes up the dynamics of the teams going into the playoffs. It messes up the dynamics of it's and I love you guys. I know a lot of you believe in it.
Yeah, but that's incorrect.
Yeah, so but I do want to say that we shouldn't be doing that. No. We should leave the teams alone. And let folks, because folks should still be utilizing the waiver wire through the end. The team should be just as competitive in week 13 as it was in week 2, because the folks that they're playing are still vying for playoff spots, and they shouldn't get an unfair advantage over folks that are playing contenders.
And they still have games even when the playoffs start. Like, I'm in the mindset of like, you should never ever stop someone from using the waiver wire. If they want to be competitive and play their matchup that doesn't matter in the playoffs, then go for it. Do it. We want to encourage, we also want to encourage people being able to see the end of, like, how many times if you're like out of the playoffs and you can't use the waivers, like, why would I even show up to see what happens at the end of the year? For me, I feel like it's just a way to keep everyone engaged and just for the overall league health. But then when you're in the playoffs, I also think you should be able to. And there's a change that we've made in a couple of our leagues that this is the first year we're doing it, that kind of helps encourage this even more, of still using that waiver wire. And that's one, you shouldn't have a better chance on the waiver wire once you're in playoffs. It should be balanced to what the rest of the year is as much as possible. So we, instead of a 4th place prize for our playoffs in a few of our leagues, we're changing it so that and I don't know if you did it in our work one, but so that the winner of the consolation bracket will now get their money back. Basically, it equals the dues of the year. So the same prize that fourth place used to have, now 4th place gets nothing, which means that 3rd place, 4th place game matters even more now. And then also the consolation bracket matters too. So even though they're not fighting for a championship, they have something to play for to stay active. So this is the same reason why I don't usually like when there's a big money league that I keep getting invited to that I've never done, because every player that's in a waiver pickup or trade, you have to pay like $5 or something for it, like every player involved in it. I feel like that's such a it discourages activity, and I'm against anything that discourages activity in a league.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the competitiveness of the people in that league, and on what that's used for. So there's a league that I've been like on the waiting list for decades. That's a family league that is from a family that like my aunt
Your
married
family doesn't
into.
like you.
Yeah, my aunt married into
Okay.
this league, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's my uncle that he's been my uncle for most of my life, but still, they've got like a really deep family league that's been run since the early 2000s, believe it or not.
Okay.
Like they back in the day, they used to run this like they were doing their stats off of the newspaper that came out. Like that's what
Nice.
like that's how old this league is.
Yeah.
But they have transaction fees throughout the
Mm-hmm.
year, like the entire year, every transaction, trade, waiver wire, all that stuff. They have fees involved. I don't know how they used to manage that back in the day.
Yeah.
But all of the transaction fees, though, throughout the year go towards the following year's draft party. And they host a like huge party.
Oh, cool.
Bring in food, bring in all this stuff. So if it's fun and like more power to you and do stuff like that. A part of it I know goes into the pot, but a part of it is reserved for like their draft party or whatever every year. So there's just like fun ideas you can do. Anything you can do to make your league more fun and enjoyable, cool. Like if everyone's down for it. But you're right. If it is discouraging people from transacting, that I would be opposed to it. But if everyone's down, like, cool. But yeah, just don't limit the possibilities. I get like where some people stand on the playoff side of it. Like, I don't agree. I'm on your side with that. Like, I agree that it should just be live the whole time. Everyone should be participating. Everyone should be pulling the same way they do all year long. But but I get some leagues like in the real world, playoffs change. You can sign more people to your roster and all that stuff, or whatever.
Yeah.
So like it's different. Playoffs are different. So if you have whatever your league rules are your league rules, but they shouldn't change mid-season or end of season, and give folks unfair advantages as we get to that playoff push.
All right. Well, let's get into our main portion of the show today, the playoff push heroes. Jumping into, we're going to do one each for each position, and then if there's any honorable mentions at the end. But do you want to kick it off with the quarterback, your quarterback for end of year? And then these will, just as a call out, will trickle, some might trickle a little bit into playoff, but we're really talking and focusing on the rest of the regular season. But if there is a good playoff piece here, this is all the more, I guess I used it as a tiebreaker when choosing mine.
Yeah. So for my quarterback, I'm gonna let this guy cook. You know what I mean? Like, we're jumping into. Let him cook. Let's ride. Let's go. No. What other sayings he had? Whatever it is,
he's got unlimited amount of sayings.
Is unlimited, right? Mr. Unlimited amounts of sayings. No, Russell Wilson, I think, is coming into showing that he's still got it a bit. Like he was warming up. You look at his 3 games that he's played. He's 30 fantasy points against the Jets, 16 fantasy points against the Giants, against Washington, who's one of the better teams defensively. Scored almost 25 points, and just watching him play ball, watching him pass, like his teardrop passes are landing right where they are. He's showing, and I'm not going to take away too much from this because I know you're talking about this guy later, but he's making George Pickens look like who we expected George Pickens to look like. Mm-hmm. Probably arguably the best quarterback play George Pickens has had. All right, so like Russell Wilson just looking like he can help carry, and then the next 4 weeks he's playing Baltimore, Cleveland twice, and Cincinnati. Baltimore's given up second most to quarterbacks, Cincinnati fourth most to quarterbacks, Cleveland kind of middle of the pack, and he's got them twice. I think he's great for you to get a push into the playoffs if you're looking for something off of waiver wires. If you're struggling a bit in the quarterback position, maybe you waited and it kind of beat you up a little bit. I think that's someone to jump into because I think he's still under 50% owned in redraft leagues right now.
Yeah, I've got him in a couple of leagues due to poor choices I made, and but he's been a pleasant surprise, and I really, Tomlinson's smart, man. I thought it was crazy to move away from Fields while they were winning so much, and I don't think I would have had the balls to do it, and Tomlinson made that change, and I think it was a great one. And I have around the same percentage there, but like 54% rostered. And mine comes with a little bit of a caveat. Like, so Bo Nix is the one for me. I think I've been surprised. I think in the beginning of the season, the one positive we spoke to with Bo Nix was that Sean Payton knows how to pick good quarterbacks, and there's a good chance that he's seeing something that we're not seeing. And but then you add this like rushing ability that he doesn't do every single game, but he has that in him, where he's never really killing your week, but he has boom weeks with that rushing that kind of take you over the edge. The games that he has left are strong, so he's about middle of the pack, well, top 10 in strength of schedule for the remaining season. And the one piece is you've got Cleveland in week 13 that might be tougher. The defense pretty good there, and they're used to mobile quarterbacks, so I think they'd be able to shut that part of his game down. And then the bye week right after. So it's the only reason I still included him is this carryover into a great playoff schedule where he plays the Colts, the Chargers, and who have been middle of the pack against quarterback, and then Cincinnati, who have been horrible against quarterback. So you've got Atlanta, Las Vegas, a tough one with Cleveland, a bye week, but then you have a strong, if that was enough to get you over the edge, you've got a really strong finish to the year, and he's still only 54% rostered.
Yeah, I'm watching it. Like, would you say he's the second best rookie quarterback this year? So, like, would you put him
above Caleb? Yeah, Caleb. Yeah, we have a lot of questions on Caleb, and we talked about it a few weeks or maybe a month ago or a month and a half ago, like right in the beginning of the season. We were like, I think we weren't worried because of how much Caleb Williams has to really run and how much they're giving him, but it hasn't pushed over yet. Like, I'd rather have Bo Nix. I think I'd be more excited to have Bo Nix on my team in Dynasty than Caleb Williams, and I think Caleb Williams still has I'm not calling him a bust. I think he still has a good chance at being successful. I think he has better talent overall. So I don't know if it's coaching or not, but they just made a switch there with their offensive coordinator. So maybe I don't think we'll see the direct change from that this year, but we'll see going into next year if that saves him. But I like a little bit of a dash of certainty in my rankings, and I think I would rather have Bo Nix right now just because of that from a dynasty perspective as well, for sure, for a redraft.
Yeah, fair enough.
Jumping into running back rankings, I had someone here, Brooks. I took him off because we wrote this list originally weeks ago, and I forgot who you had, that Gesicki or something. I think you might have thrown in, or somebody else that you threw in. That it was out of Tampa Bay. What's the tight end? Yeah. Oh no.
Kate Otten.
Kate Otten. You had Kate Otten,
Yep.
so like I want to give you first of all a shout out for your. But this was in October we wrote the show doc, and then we just haven't gotten to it. So shout out for you. I know you had to change it because it's too obvious now, but shout out to you for that one. The one of them that I'm glad we didn't record the show for. There's two of them because I scratched off two. Brooks, after that contract to Hubbard and how he continues to perform, I think Brooks is not somebody that I feel confident in. I'm keeping him in the leagues I have, really, for the most part, just to see what happens, but I'm not confident. Not like I was before. I thought he was going to kind of like eat in and by the end of the season really have taken over. But that contract tells me they like Hubbard more than I thought they would. So my replacement for that is Rachaad White. One of the big reasons why for Rachaad White is I know that he's got Bucky Irving there, which you were just mentioning, and I do like Bucky Irving. The running back strength of schedule for the rest of the season, number one strength of schedule is Tampa Bay. They've got the New York Giants, Carolina, and then Las Vegas. In the playoffs, they've got the Chargers, which ranked number 4, so they're tough defense in the first round of playoffs. But then you got Dallas and Carolina, 26 and 32. So if you make it all the way to the championship, or if you play your games throughout the rest of the year, if you have them, you get to play Carolina, the number 1 worst defense against running back, twice, including that week 17. So I'm excited about that. I think Bucky and White can do really well. And I think the biggest thing is he's getting over 50% of the snaps, around 60%. He's getting a lower amount of rushing attempts, which makes Bucky Irving able to be successful as well, but he's taking over that other role that we've been talking about throughout, where that second running back is now more of a pass catching running back, where he's had 6'6", 3 and then 7 targets and then catching most of them. I think he only missed 2 targets in the last 4 weeks. They trust him. It's enough to bring him over the edge. And if he can play these other teams after this bye week that he has this week, he goes into that awesome rest of schedule. And I would be confident throwing him in there. And it's somebody with this being the trade deadline week for most leagues, I would go get him if you were looking for an upgrade.
Yeah, it's giving Detroit Lions backfield for sure. Like it's definitely somewhere where I would consider either one of those players in trades. Like I'd want either one of them, whoever we can get cheaper. I wanted to, when we came to revisit this, because we wrote this show doc so long ago, when I revisited this, I wanted to put Bucky there, but I saw you had Rachaad already, and I was like, oh, we're not going to do two of these guys.
Sure.
So, and Bucky's become a little more obvious as time's gone on. But yeah, they're looking at that. You can't beat that schedule. And even though we're talking about playoff push, I know that they have week 11 bye, right? They're going into bye week right now. It's still great for the last 3 weeks plus the playoffs minus the Chargers game. So yeah, I'm with you there. But for mine, since you removed my ability to choose one rookie, I went with another. So Tyrone Tracy for me. This guy's just usage has continued to climb week over week over week over week. He's 80% snap percentage last week. And it's really he's really earned that backfield. And going into the last few weeks, just like you talked about with the Bucks, the last he's going into a bye week this week, but then he's got Tampa Bay, Dallas, New Orleans, 8th, 4th, and 5th. Not as pretty as the Buccaneers, but a pretty decent running back schedule. So I think Tyrone Tracy's got it. With the uncertainty of what's happening at the QB position, you trust the running back position a little bit here. With Daniel John, I don't know if they're going to eventually move to Drew Lock or what's happening over there, but or if that's in the waters, right? I think they were even talking about.
I think they are. I think it's pretty. I think it's pretty much locked up.
It's great. Well, he's got some mad flows. We'll at least see him rap a little bit on the sidelines, maybe. And then, but Tyrone Tracy, then I trust even more to get you some solid points as someone's going to be out there and available for you, and he'll catch a couple of passes, and maybe it'll be a little bit more dump off with Drew back there. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, he's my running back pick as we go into the end of the season.
I thought I was actually going to pick the same, and I saw you had him in there already. But he's got the bye week, as you mentioned, a tougher one with Tampa Bay. And then so Dallas is 26th against the run, and New Orleans is 30th. And then he's just got a little bit tougher of a playoff schedule. But if you're fighting to get into the playoffs, you got to get to the playoffs to do well in the playoffs. So I think he's a great end of the season running back as well. Especially, I think that's a good call out with Locke. The offense changes a little bit. I would assume that anyone throwing the ball, they would have more success than Daniel Jones. So that would translate to their running back as well. Wide receivers. You mentioned that I mentioned him earlier. I'm actually going to go opposite of a homer here. And my wide receiver pick is going to be our rival, the Steelers. But I'm going to pick Pickens. So there's a question here that I'm considering, and I've thrown out trades for actually, of CD Lamb for Pickens and redraft, just making the ugly swap. And I feel really gross about CD Lamb for the rest of the year. I don't think that's going to be good. And I think that I don't think it's going to be like god awful, but I think Pickens is a huge upgrade from his first half for the rest of his season with Russell Wilson, like you mentioned with your quarterback pick. He's got a great strength of schedule as well. So looking at the remainder of the year, the number one strength of schedule. I mean, this is one of the. Just let me read this. Number one is Steelers. This is 32 Baltimore. That's who they play this week, and then the 31st against against wide receivers is Cleveland. That's who they do in week 12, and then Cincinnati. So it's all in division, and that's 25th Cincinnati, and then Cleveland again to finalize this 31. They're looking they're looking outstanding to finish up the year, and then you've got that playoff push here in Week 16. You've got Baltimore again at 32, and then you've got some tough ones with Philly and KC in playoffs. But a majority of this rest of the season, and then at least that second round of the playoffs, you've got some of the best matchups you could possibly have for a wide receiver. I think Pickens eats the rest of the year.
Yeah, he's the guy there. I think it's a great pick, especially if like you were worried about him. I don't know what his numbers were early on in the season, but dude has looked good. He does magical things when he's got bad quarterback play. So a guy putting the ball where it belongs, and Russell Wilson seems to be doing that right now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be nasty. So yeah, like I said, I kind of teased this a little bit earlier, but we all expected phenomenal things of George Pickens when he first entered the league, and I think he finally has a quarterback, at least for now, that's going to showcase that. I don't know how many years of Russell Wilson we're going to get with George Pickens,
Sure.
but yeah, for closing out the year, I think that's a great pickup.
So who's your homer pick?
Okay, yeah, that absolutely. So, you know, I'll be and I was talking to you about this earlier. I was trying to avoid being a homer as we close out the year, but hey, the Chargers have been on the rise as far as offensive fantasy points go. Right? There was a while there where the only person you can trust on the Chargers squad to get you some points was J.K. Dobbins. But for me, the passing game has come into life, and I think a lot of it has come with a lot of things, right? One, Herbert's been dealing with injuries. His ankle seems to be fine. Dude was running all over the field. He had a rushing touchdown this past weekend, rushed for a few first downs this past weekend. So he's just opening him up to play more freely. And what that has done is opened up the passing game. My pick is Ladd McConkey, just because he's been their number one receiver all year long. Someone that they're going to. They're playing Cincinnati, where I'm expecting that game got flexed to Sunday night with how bad Cincinnati's defense is and how great their offense is. I'm expecting some version of a shootout. It might not be like a shootout of all shootouts, but
yeah,
you know, it's even if they score 27-27 or 30-27, that's a shootout for the Chargers this year. And how their offense has been scoring. So I expect the passing game to open up. But even notable mention in the same offense, Quentin Johnston, if he's still out there, he showed up and all of a sudden become a thing, which is against everything I believed in the preseason. But he's shown up and being a thing, and he's just been the touchdown machine for a few weeks now. So
looking
Ladd
at the
McConkey's
Chargers,
my guy.
Looking at the Chargers schedule, they're top 10 as well, and rest of the season for wide receivers, 25th against wide receivers in Cincinnati, similar to the Pittsburgh one, right? So Cincinnati and Baltimore the next with 32. Then you got Atlanta with the 22nd against, and then your last week you have KC, which is a little tougher. But I feel like I don't know how they've performed. I thought this is probably not true, but I thought that Chargers, when they do play KC, have done all right against them, or at least given them. I have to look back at that, but I feel like it doesn't follow the standard with KC and Chargers. Like they can break free a little bit.
Yeah, that rivalry has been real, and ever the very first game, and obviously now I'm speaking as a homer, but the very first game that Justin Herbert ever played, it came into the game when Tyrone Taylor infamously got an injection in his lung.
That's what it was. Yeah,
yeah.
I did a stab. Like that's how they did it. Yeah.
Dude missed, went too deep. Anyway, like Herbert found out he was starting 3 minutes before the game started, basically. And he went in and went on a tear against Casey, and ever since then, I feel like he's just had a chip on his shoulder. A division rival, just wants to live up to that. So they always play against them well. The games are always close. But
now it is at Casey, I wouldn't go directly to the standard with anytime you have that division, that rivalry that you have between the two of them, you can break free.
Yeah.
Now, I did want to give it a little bit of an update since you brought up Ladd McConkey. Our bet in the beginning of the year before the season started was that Ladd McConkey, you said, would have more receptions than both Neighbors and Marv. No, I think it was just against. No. All right. It was against Marv. No. So Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Ladd McConkey. We've got reception total Out of 54 targets for Ladd McConkey, we've got 37 receptions. Out of 60 targets for Marvin Harrison Jr., we're at 33 receptions. And we've got a bye week for Marvin. We've got a bye week for Marvin this week, and Ladd McConkey has already had his bye week. So let's say he's 8 up, most likely, on Marvin Harrison Jr., and we've got 8 games left. 7 games after that. All right, it's going to be tight.
It's going to be tight. It's
Quentin
not
Johnson,
as exciting
go wild.
of a... Yeah, it's not as exciting of a bet as I thought it might be.
No, it's more that Marvin hasn't done well than Ladd's done that well. I think that's more... It's not as cool as we thought it would be. Tight end, let's do these ones really quick. I had somebody else in here. I swapped him out, I think. David Njoku, with Cooper leaving, will have opportunities for the rest of the season. The Browns have the 5th best schedule for tight ends, 19th against New Orleans, then Pittsburgh at 21, has their middle of the range against Denver at 14 against tight ends, and then Pittsburgh again. And then the playoffs are really strong. KC for 27th against tight ends, Cincinnati 24th against tight ends, and ending with Miami, that's 10. So two games that might give you numbers, but the other should overperform what he's been doing. And without Cooper, I think we already know that Njoku is strong. He's a great tight end. I think he can take advantage easily with this, especially if they keep with, as you call him, YOLO Winston.
Boy, dude. Yeah. Triple interception Winston.
I love yours, though. Yours, I keep trying to find a way to pick him up where he is still out there. And I just have a hard time rostering more than one tight end. But I love yours rest of the season pick.
Yeah, this is more of a gut play, right? Because if we do the traditional things that we're looking at as far as schedule, it's not like the best schedule coming up. He's got other pass catchers back there, so it doesn't make a ton of sense. But Jonnu Smith, for me, right, is someone that I'm looking at. Like you said, I had K-Dot in the spot earlier on, but that became too obvious. But Jonnu Smith, for me, he's back there becoming a trustworthy pass catcher for Tua as they're going through this weird phase of Waddle and Tyreek not being the lockdown things that they've always been.
Right.
There was a long where if you were thinking Miami Dolphins and they were throwing passes, either 10 or 17 was going to be catching that pass.
True.
And we're not there anymore. We're in a space where the ball's getting passed around a little bit more, even with Tua back there. Jonnu Smith has had a couple of really great games. But he's consistently, and from the tight end position, he's consistently at least getting 4 to 7, 8 opportunities back there. He's getting targets. So someone to trust. Las Vegas is a great matchup for them. And then kind of middle of the pack with New England and Green Bay. Against tight ends, the playoffs in week 14 are a little bit tougher. But like I said, a little bit more of a gut play as Jonnu has been kind of a trusted option for Tua while his wide receivers are struggling.
Yeah, and I don't know how fast it's going to get turned around. I don't know how to feel about Hill. We had that question from one of our one of the people we commissioned some leagues with, and they were looking at really trading away Hill for Metcalf. Like it's at that point right now where because there is something wrong there. There's an injury there. He just started talking about it, but does that mean that's he mentioned it was from when he got detained, and I don't know if that's if it got aggravated along the way or if that's really how long it's been, and then that means he's been struggling for a while with it, and his performance is kind of you thought with Tua coming back would jump up, and then he's 10 points, so not killing you, but without that touchdown this week he would have killed you. He had 16 yards I think this last week. So it's got to go somewhere. And yes, you're right. Jonnu Smith is definitely part of it. And the playoffs are scary with him. But again, you got to get there. So week 14 is a tough one. And then the rest of the regular season, 29, 17, 26 against tight ends. I think that's a great choice. I've been trying to find a way to get him on the roster that makes sense to me. I think that's a great pickup. I have one honorable mention on the wide receiver category. I brought it up in the beginning of the show out of segment, but Calvin Ridley, my neighbor texted me yesterday and I let him, or not yesterday, last week, and I let him down. He said, should I should I start Addison or should I start Ridley? And I was like, I said the correct answer is Ridley. I cannot find a way. I cannot convince myself in the 3 leagues that I have Ridley in to start him because Levis was back and I just didn't trust it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't, and he wasn't performing with Levis. I haven't seen that with Levis without Hopkins. I was like, I just need a week to see it. And then he goes off, and another podcast I listened to of like the footballers, Jason Moore had said, the rest of season he's a must start because you're going to get these 20 something points, and you're only going to get them if you start him, because you're also going to get these other weeks that are going to make you not want to start him, but you can't go back and forth on it. You just got to commit to starting him. And that's for the leagues I have him, and that's kind of where I got to now. Is this, I got to commit to starting him, and I think that he'll have. This is me honorably mentioning it to convince myself that it's okay. And looking at the rest of his season, he's got the number 2 next to Pittsburgh. He's got Minnesota at 28, Houston 21, Washington 20, Jacksonville in week 14, and then it goes right into the playoffs. Cincinnati at 25. The Colts at 23, and then championship week 30. The 30th with Jacksonville again. So he gets to play Jacksonville twice in the time that he has left, one in the championship. And obviously that's the one that he's going to goose egg in because I'm going to have the most confidence in him. But I'm just going to have to, I'm telling myself just to start him.
Yeah, do it. Just got it with the Band-Aid. I put a couple of honorable mentions in here. I talked about one of them already, though, so I'll just glaze over that. But Justin Herbert, if he's still sitting out there, go get him. He's on his way up. They're using him more. He's rushing a little bit, not a ton. I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson or anything, but he's going to get you some opportunities around the goal line. But the one that I want to put out there, just if there's a confidence question for folks, like you've probably had him this whole time. He's probably be sitting in your IR spot, but he can really help you through the end of the year. TJ Hawkinson, just right out the gate, first 2 games in.
Yeah, that's what I took off to put Njoku in, but I agree with you completely.
Yeah, Hawkinson, I think is gonna, he's stepping right in. Wasn't sure how it was gonna go from, it's weird that we're in week 11 talking about this, but comparing Darnold to what he had with Cousins, but Darnold's proven himself able to get the ball into his skill position players, his playmakers out there, and Hawkinson one of them. So I think this hurts Addison a ton. Not that Addison was having a great year, but I think the 2 people that are going to be catching passes from Darnold here on out are going to be Hawkinson and Jefferson. So sorry, Addison, the 3 sons out there. Just realized.
Oh yeah.
But I think you needed Hawkinson or Jefferson here to be catching passes from Darnold.
Agreed. All right. That's what we've got this week for our end of season and a little bit into the playoffs. Saviors, our heroes. Next up, we're going to have our Q&A or mailbag episodes. So we'll source those ones. And then if you have any questions, anytime you have any questions that you want to have brought up into the week, you can reach out to us directly by commenting on one of these videos, and we'll pull it in for that next one that we have. But we'll answer you right away. All right. That being said, another cool thing that we have coming up that I'm excited for is we have our redraft of rookies. So we just kind of want to see if we were redrafting right now, where would we take some of these players with the knowledge that we have now? And then we also want to do our wide receiver ranking video, re-ranking wide receivers as a whole for Dynasty. And then if I didn't say that out loud with the redraft, it's the Dynasty rookie redraft. And then we got to get our friend, what's his name? 20 through, at some point we'll do 20 or 11 through 20.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, I was super wrong about them rookies.
Yeah. I think so. It's
owning it.
We don't have to point anyone to our original mock draft or our actual I think we recorded and posted our actual Dynasty draft. You don't have to watch it. Don't laugh at us. I've got to go back and watch that now and see some of the stupid little things we said, like obviously this guy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the fun of fantasy. And one thing you're always going to get with us is we're going to be honest about when we're dumb.
Yeah. Be water, change often. That's how fantasy works. Where it's just like it's kind of like baseball, where it's like that. If you can hit 30% of the time, like, you're pretty incredible. So that's what I'm just going to put for myself. So I'm at 25.
Baseball stats out here. All right, we'll take it.
Yeah, all right, y'all. Have a good one. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Later.